My name is Julie, and my story starts in a busy home full of love, though it wasn't always shared equally. Growing up, our house was filled with laughter, crying, and the sound of little feet. I was the second oldest, with my brother Sean just a year older than me and two younger sisters, Olivia and Rachel, who were born when I was in my early teens. From a young age, I learned how to be responsible. While other kids played, I was in our small kitchen helping Mom with dinner or taking care of Olivia and Rachel. It wasn't always easy, but it taught me a lot about kindness and hard work. Our parents, Dennis and Diane, worked hard. Dad had long hours at the local factory, and Mom balanced part-time jobs with taking care of the house. We weren't rich, but they made sure we had food and a home. However, I couldn't help but notice that Sean seemed to get special treatment from our parents. Sean's the oldest, Dad would say proudly, ruffling his hair. He's carrying on the family name. As we grew up, the difference became clear. When Sean graduated from high school, he got a car. When I graduated, I got a card and a promise to help with college. It wasn't that I wasn't loved. I was. But the favoritism was obvious, and it shaped the way things worked in our family. Olivia and Rachel looked up to me a lot, almost like I was their second mom. I took that role seriously, wanting to be the best example I could for them. When I finished high school, I focused on going to college. My parents, as promised, had saved some money for our education. It wasn't enough to cover everything, but it was a good start. I chose to study finance, hoping it would lead to a steady job. It was just as tough as I expected, with long nights studying in the library, but I faced every challenge with determination. I helped Mom with house chores, even though I had a lot of work. I always made time to call home. Mom would catch me up on the family news. Dad would greet me with a quick hello, and my sisters would fight over who got to talk to me first. I didn't hear much from Sean directly. Usually, Mom would tell me about him. He had started working at a local company and wasn't too interested in going back to school. Our parents, especially Dad, were proud of him. "Your brother's doing great in business," Dad would say during our rare chats. "He has a talent for it." I'd agree, even though it stirred a little competitiveness in me. But I reminded myself that life wasn't a race, and we each had our own journey. Over the years, I focused hard on my studies and part-time jobs, determined to make the most of the chance my parents gave me. Their financial help didn't cover everything, but it was a big support, and I was truly grateful. I knew they were making sacrifices to keep me in school, and I didn't want to let them down. Before I knew it, graduation day came. As I stood in my cap and gown, holding my diploma, I looked out at the crowd to find my family there. They were Mom and Dad smiling proudly, Olivia and Rachel waving excitedly, and even Sean was there, standing a bit off to the side with a small smile. After the ceremony, Mom gave me a tight hug, tears in her eyes. "We're so proud of you, honey," she said. Dad nodded and patted my shoulder, a little awkward but affectionate. "You've done well, Julie. Now it's time to make your mark in the world." We celebrated over dinner, and I told them about my plan to stay in the city and start my career. I had thought about moving back home, but the job opportunities in the city were too good to turn down. My new entry-level job at a financial firm meant long hours, so I couldn't visit home often, only on holidays and a few long weekends. But I kept in touch, calling regularly and sending my sisters care packages. Everything changed about 8 years after I first left for college. I was at home visiting and sitting in the kitchen with Mom, chatting over coffee, when my phone rang. It was my boss. "Julie, I have some news," he said, sounding more serious than usual. "We're opening a new branch in your hometown, and I want you to lead it. It's a big promotion, but you'd have to move. Are you interested?" Without hesitation, I said, "Yes, I'm definitely interested." When I got the job offer in my hometown, my company said they would pay for an apartment, but Mom and Dad insisted I move back home. "Come on, Julie," Mom said. "It'll be just like old times." I couldn't say no. On my first day back, I walked into our old house, and it looked smaller than I remembered. Olivia and Rachel, now in their late teens, ran to hug me. Sean was living on his own and already engaged. Later that night, after I finished unpacking, I sat with Olivia and Rachel in our old room. It felt nice to be home, listening to their stories and laughing together. "So, tell me about Sean's fiancée," I said. Olivia and Rachel exchanged a glance. "Her name's Evelyn," Olivia said slowly. "She's different." Rachel nodded. "Yeah, she's from a rich family. Her dad owns the company Sean works for now." Something in the way they said it made me curious. "Different how?" I asked, but they just shrugged and changed the subject. I decided to let it go for now. The next few weeks were busy with my new job, setting up the branch office. It was hard work, but I enjoyed it. In the evenings, I helped Olivia and Rachel with their homework or chatted with Mom while she cooked dinner. One Monday, we were all sitting around the table when the doorbell rang. Mom jumped up to answer it. "It's Sean and Evelyn," she called out. I stood up, excited to see my brother and meet his fiancée. Sean walked in first, looking sharp in a suit. Behind him was a tall, slim woman with perfect hair and clothes that probably cost more than my rent. Evelyn looked around the house like it wasn't good enough for her. "Oh, how quaint," she said, picking up one of Mom's knickknacks. I watched, confused, as Mom and Dad fussed over her, asking if she needed anything and apologizing for the smallest things. Olivia and Rachel stayed quiet, looking down when Evelyn made a rude comment about Rachel's clothes. I couldn't stay silent. I pulled Olivia aside. "What's going on?" I whispered. "Why is everyone letting her act like this?" Olivia sighed. "Sean works for her dad now. It's a big deal. Mom and Dad are scared if we upset her, Sean might lose his job." I was shocked. This wasn't the family I knew. We never let anyone treat us like that. Things got worse at dinner. Evelyn started making snide remarks about my job and my clothes. I couldn't take it anymore. "Look," I said, "I don't know who you think you are, but in this house, we treat each other with respect. If you can't do that, maybe you should leave." The room went silent. Evelyn's face twisted in anger. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, and Sean followed, looking torn. As soon as they left, Mom and Dad turned on me. "Julie, how could you?" Mom cried. "You know how important this is for Sean." Dad looked disappointed. "You need to control your temper. This could ruin everything for your brother." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They kept begging me to apologize and be the bigger person. Finally, just to stop them from nagging, I agreed to try and make peace with Evelyn. The weeks flew by, and soon Sean's wedding was all anyone could talk about. Evelyn took control of everything, bossing us around like she was planning a military event, not a wedding. She dragged us to endless dress fittings, insisting we buy expensive gowns to match the venue's style. When I suggested something cheaper, Evelyn just laughed. "Oh, Julie," she sneered, "we can't have you looking cheap at my wedding, can we?" Next came the bachelorette party. Evelyn handed out a detailed schedule with mandatory activities and outfit changes. It was ridiculous, but Mom kept giving me pleading looks, so I stayed quiet. Then came the big shock. Evelyn wanted us to do a dance at the wedding. Not just a simple dance, but a full-on performance. "It'll be the highlight of the reception," she gushed. "You'll all look so cute." My stomach sank. I had injured my back years ago in a car accident, and dancing wasn't something I could do anymore. But I thought, asterisk, how bad could it be, asterisk? Well, it was pretty bad. At the dance studio, the choreographer started talking about splits, lifts, and other wild moves. Evelyn was there, barking orders like a drill sergeant. "Come on, ladies, put your backs into it." I pulled out my phone, thinking I'd record the practice, but as I watched, I realized there was no way I could do this. It was way too much. "Hold on," I said. "This is crazy. We're not circus performers. Evelyn, I can't do these moves." Evelyn's face twisted with anger. "What do you mean you asterisk can't asterisk? Of course you can. Stop being difficult, Julie." I stood my ground. "No, I mean it. I have an old back injury, and this kind of dancing isn't possible for me." That's when Evelyn really lost it. She started yelling and throwing around insults. Then she hit me with, "Fine. If you won't dance, you owe Sean $10,000 as a wedding gift. It's only fair since you're ruining my special day." I was speechless. I looked at Olivia and Rachel, hoping they'd support me, but they just stared at the floor, clearly worried about what Evelyn had said earlier. That was it. I'd had enough. "You know what, Evelyn? Keep your stupid dance. I'm out of here." I stormed out of the studio, my hands shaking as I held my phone, which was still recording the whole mess. I walked home, my mind spinning. What was I going to do now? How did things get so messed up? I burst through the front door, still angry from the dance rehearsal disaster. Mom and Dad were in the living room, and they could tell something was wrong. I told them everything: the impossible dance routine, Evelyn's crazy behavior, and the $10,000 demand. I expected them to be on my side, maybe even upset for me, but I got something completely different. Dad's face turned red. "Julie, how could you? After everything we've talked about, this wedding is important for Sean's future. You need to apologize to Evelyn right now and agree to do the dance." I couldn't believe it. Apologize for what? Having a back injury? Standing up for myself? "Stop being so selfish," Dad shouted. "This isn't about you. It's about Sean's happiness and success." "So my happiness doesn't matter?" I shot back. "What about my health?" The argument got heated quickly. We were yelling, and tears were shed, but I refused to give in to Evelyn's ridiculous demands. That's when Dad said something that stunned me. "If you can't support your brother and his fiancée, then maybe you shouldn't be here at all." The room went silent. That night, I packed a bag, ignoring Mom's weak attempts to calm things down. The next day, I moved into the apartment my company had offered me earlier. It was small and empty, but at least it was mine. The wedding came and went, but I didn't go. I couldn't stand the thought of watching my family cater to Evelyn's every whim. I spent that day alone in my apartment, torn between anger and sadness. A few days later, my phone blew up with notifications. Evelyn had posted on social media, sharing a dramatic story about how I had tried to ruin her perfect day. She made herself look like the victim and painted me as the jealous, spiteful sister-in-law. The comments were even worse. Relatives I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly became experts on my life, calling me selfish and cruel. Even Olivia and Rachel liked the post, which hurt deeply. Soon, the calls started: aunts, uncles, cousins, all telling me how disappointed they were and how ashamed I should be. Olivia tried to reach out once, sending me a text saying she missed me, but when I suggested we meet up, she backed off, saying Evelyn wouldn't like it. I didn't try again after that. I threw myself into my work, hoping to finish my project and leave this town behind, but things kept getting delayed. Problems kept coming up that needed my attention, and each delay felt like a twist of the knife. Months passed, and I settled into a lonely routine. Work, home, sleep, repeat. I had almost gotten used to the quiet when my phone rang one night. It was Rachel. Her voice was shaky. "Julie, can we talk?" she asked. We met at a cafe far from anyone we knew. Rachel looked awful, dark circles under her eyes, hair a mess. The moment she saw me, she burst into tears. "I'm so sorry, Julie," she sobbed. "You were right about everything." Slowly, she told me the whole story. After the wedding, Evelyn showed her true colors. She had been treating Olivia and Rachel like servants, making them clean her house, cook, and do laundry, all without any pay. "She says it's our duty as family," Rachel said bitterly. "And Sean, he just goes along with it. He sees how she treats us and says nothing." I was furious. "What about Mom and Dad? They can't be okay with this," I said. Rachel gave a hollow laugh. "They think it's great. They say we're building character and strengthening family bonds. It's like they're brainwashed." I couldn't believe it. This was worse than I had imagined. "I'm so sorry I didn't stand up for you before," Rachel whispered. "I was scared. We all were. But I can't take it anymore. Please, Julie, help us." The next day, I went straight to our parents' house. Mom opened the door, her smile fading when she saw me. "Julie, what are you doing here?" she asked. But I pushed past her into the living room. Dad was there, reading the newspaper. He looked up with a frown. "We need to talk," I said, "about Evelyn and how she's treating Olivia and Rachel." Mom's face hardened. "I don't know what Rachel's been telling you," but I cut her off. "Don't deny it. I know everything. How can you let this happen? They're your daughters." Dad stood up, his voice cold. "Now you listen, Julie. Evelyn is family. She's given Sean opportunities we could only dream of. If the girls need to help out a bit, that's a small price to pay." I was stunned. "A little help. She's treating them like slaves, and you're okay with that?" Mom spoke up, her voice weak. "You're exaggerating. The girls are fine. They're just..." "Just what, Mom? Just being abused by their sister-in-law while you look the other way?" Dad's face turned red. "That's enough. I won't have you coming in here and stirring up trouble. Evelyn is Sean's wife. She's wealthy, and she can give this family a future. If you can't accept that, maybe you're not part of this family anymore." His words hit me like a punch. I stared at them, feeling like I didn't recognize them anymore. "So that's it," I said quietly. "You're choosing money over your own children." Mom wouldn't look at me, and Dad just glared. "Get out," he said, "and don't come back until you're ready to apologize to Evelyn and Sean." I left, my legs shaky, my heart breaking all over again. As I walked away from the home I grew up in, I realized a tough truth. I couldn't change my parents' minds. They were too blinded by the promise of money and status. But I couldn't leave Olivia and Rachel to suffer. I had to find a way to help them, to save them from Evelyn, from our parents' refusal to see what was really happening, and from the life they seemed ready to accept. One day, I was getting ready for a big meeting, reviewing my notes and fixing my jacket. Then I saw a name on the guest list. James Anderson, CEO of Anderson Industries and Evelyn's father. My heart raced. He wouldn't know me since I didn't go to the wedding, but I knew him. He was the man whose money had torn my family apart. The meeting started with all polite handshakes and fake smiles. James didn't even look at me. We talked business, went over numbers, and debated points. Then it was time for a coffee break. By chance, I ended up next to James as we refilled our cups. He started talking, making small talk that somehow led to parenting. You know, he said proudly, I raised Evelyn to be humble. Never let her flaunt our wealth. She grew up modest, well-mannered, even married a regular guy. She respects everyone, treats them like family. Something inside me snapped. Without saying a word, I took out my phone and played a video. I had almost forgotten about it. It showed Evelyn red-faced and yelling at the dance rehearsal. "You stupid scum!" she screamed on screen. "Pay $10,000 or get out. I won't have you ruining my wedding." The color drained from James's face as he watched his daughter scream at me, my sisters, and the bridesmaids. When it ended, there was only silence. "I had no idea," James whispered. "She's always so polite around me. I thought I raised her right." I braced myself, expecting him to get angry and leave. Instead, he looked at me, pleading, "Please tell me everything." So I did. I told him about the cruel comments, the way Evelyn forced Olivia and Rachel to work for her, and how she had turned my family against me. With every word, James seemed to age. "I'm so sorry," he said when I finished. "I failed as a father. Please let me try to fix this." Before I could reply, he stood up. "Come with me now." We drove to Sean and Evelyn's house in silence. James's knuckles were white as he gripped the steering wheel. When we walked inside, the scene was worse than I imagined. Olivia was wearing a maid's uniform, scrubbing the floors while Evelyn lounged on the couch, barking orders. James lost it. "Evelyn, what is the meaning of this? How dare you treat people like this? Your own family." Evelyn's shock quickly turned into anger. She pointed at Olivia and said, "I won't apologize to servants." James's face turned purple with rage. "That's it. You're cut off. No more money, no more house. I'm ashamed to call you my daughter." Sean tried to step in. "Sir, please, the girls don't mind helping out. It's no big deal." But James turned on him. "And you, letting your wife treat your sisters like that. You're fired. Both of you, out of my sight." Then he looked at me and Olivia. His voice softened. "I'm so sorry for everything. Please let me help fix this." As we left, with Evelyn's angry screams fading behind us, I felt a mix of emotions, relief and vindication, but also sadness. It didn't feel like a real victory. The fallout was quick and harsh. Instead of seeing the truth, my parents doubled down on their support for Sean and Evelyn. They were furious at me, blaming me for ruining Sean's easy life. "How could you do this to your own brother?" Mom cried over the phone. "He had everything, and now it's gone because of you." Dad was even worse. "You've always been jealous of Sean," he snapped. "Well, congratulations, you've destroyed this family. Don't bother coming around anymore. You're not welcome." Their words stung, but I wasn't surprised. They had made their choice long ago, and it wasn't me or my sisters. I focused on finishing the project that had kept me in my hometown for so long. When it was done, I packed up my apartment and left without looking back. I found a new job in another city, eager for a fresh start. Months went by. I built a new life, made new friends, and tried to forget the family that had turned their backs on me. But I couldn't stop worrying about Olivia and Rachel. I sent them texts, but their replies were always short and distant. Then one rainy night, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Olivia and Rachel standing there, soaked and holding suitcases. "Julie, Olivia said, her voice shaky. We need your help. Over cups of hot tea, they told me everything. Sean and Evelyn, now broke and without jobs, had moved back in with our parents. But instead of being humbled, Evelyn had become even more controlling. She treats the house like her personal kingdom, Rachel explained. And us. We're just her servants. Mom and Dad don't do anything, Olivia added. They're so afraid of Sean leaving that they let Evelyn do whatever she wants. My heart broke for them. Why didn't you tell me sooner? They looked guilty. We were ashamed, Rachel admitted. And scared. Evelyn threatened to make things worse if we contacted you. But we couldn't take it anymore, Olivia said. Please, Julie, can we stay with you just until we find jobs and a place of our own? I didn't hesitate. Of course you can stay, as long as you need. It wasn't easy at first. My apartment was small, and we all had to adjust to living together as adults. But over time, we found our rhythm and started to rebuild our lives. I helped them work on their resumes and practiced interview questions with them. We stayed up late talking through all the years of hurt and misunderstandings. Weeks turned into months. Olivia got a job at a local bookstore, and Rachel started taking classes at a community college nearby. They insisted on helping with rent and groceries, even though I told them it wasn't necessary. One night, as we sat around the dinner table laughing at a silly story, I realized something. Our parents might never change, and Evelyn might stay the same. But that was okay. We had each other, and that was enough. Looking at my sisters, strong and finally free to be themselves, I knew we'd be okay. Whatever came next, we'd face it together, the way a real family should.